Hey, friends. Who do we have today? Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, that tickled me. That was too low. I shouldn't be singing that low. That's why I got tickled. I hope to see a bunch of you in here today. I hope you've been doing well. Feels like it's been a minute since I've met with you live, so I'm excited to see who we got up in this piece. Who it is. Come on in the room. I see that there's two of you. Hello. Hey. Cavazos. ¿Qué tal, hermano? I miss you. Woo. I'm praying for everybody. I'm praying for our whole little community. And I love you so much. I'm so grateful for our time at Disney. And I'm not going to cry. I'm just thankful. Who else we got up in here? Y'all say hey to me so I don't feel like I'm talking to myself. I see 5, 6. Someone needs to make up their mind. Are you with me or not? Hi, Dad. How are you? I miss you. Taco burrito. Your granddaughter said, hey, Dad, before I sent her upstairs. Banished upstairs. Hi, Shelly. Hey, good. Hey, Karen. It's good to see y'all on this. What is today? Wednesday. On this Wednesday. If I don't know what today is, Jesus. Hi, fam. Hi, Michelle. Oh, I'm praying, sis. Ugh, everybody I see that's my Disney peeps. I love you and I'm praying. I love you and I am praying. You might have seen, for those of you guys who don't know what I'm talking about. So Disney let go all the pros, my dad said. Yeah, Disney has let go of its equity shows. So the top shelf performers that you are used to seeing every time you have been on property are gone. And so that affects over 700 of my friends in entertainment family. And they just started getting letters this week. Some just got some last night. I think Cavazos got his 2 days ago. So everyone's kind of in the throes, fresh from that devastating news. So if you didn't see my post yesterday or last night, I think that's what it is. That's what I was talking about. That is a lot of shows that have, that now have to go pursue other dreams abruptly. But God's going to be with every last one of you. And I'm so thankful for any of the time that I had as your coworker. And I will always be your friend. So, folks, I am emotional today. Woo! I don't like it. This is, as you know, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I almost let this entire month go by without talking about it. And I was intentionally so. I really was trying to figure out if I wanted to add my voice to the moment. Hi, Regina. Hi. Liz, your baby girl is waving. Hi, sweet baby. Oh, I love you guys. I was trying to debate if I wanted to talk about this, which on one hand feels a little dumb because I got to talk about it. On the other hand, I completely get it because this is a heavy season. Good God, this is a heavy season we're walking through. And I just didn't know if I had the wherewithal to pull it off. But a long time ago, when I was still a child going through some of the things that I went through, I promised that I would lend my voice and that I would speak up about the issues that I've walked through, and that if there was any way at all that God could use any part of my own story to either free people from their bondage or keep them from getting into it, then that's what I wanted to do. And so sometimes it's not easy. Most of the time it's not easy because as silly as I am and as loud and crazy and fun and seemingly extroverted as I am, I'm not. And so I really want to hide and just kind of pretend that everything has always been beautiful. But that ain't the truth. And it is honestly, it is from coming through some of this hard ground and space and all of that stuff that even allows me to rejoice on the other side and experience hope and joy and all of that stuff. So I wouldn't be true to myself if I didn't go ahead and speak, nor would I wouldn't be true to myself if I didn't go ahead and speak. So that's what I'm gonna do. And so we might go a little over today, and if you can watch it all, hoorah. And if not, I leave these videos up for a while, so you'll get to come back and see. What I've learned is that when you're going through any hardship, a lot of times it's very easy to feel like it is just you walking through this space. You immediately feel isolated. But what I've learned, in the process of my healing, is that you're so far from alone, it's not even funny. I think most of you know, or have heard me, hey Kirk, have heard me speak on my childhood and the gross sexual molestation that I suffered as a child. I don't know how many of you are aware that then led me into subsequent crazy adult relationships. And so unfortunately, I've had way too much experience with BS. Okay? And so I dealt with domestic violence in a few of my adult relationships and ultimately in my marriage. And that is not something I say lightly or, I know how weighty even uttering these words are. So I just want us to know, good grief, that we're not alone. So will y'all pray for me? Goodness. Ooh, you guys pray as I endeavor to share some of the stuff that I've learned and some of your beautiful stories. Okay, I'm a babbling mess, and that's bothering me, so I'm gonna just get to the goods. Wanted to read you guys some stats. You guys are so sweet. Oh. I do not like being this emotional, but have your way, Jesus. Okay. So, statistically, this is a perfect way to get out of my tears. Statistically, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men, experience severe intimate partner physical violence in their relationship. Intimate partner contact sexual violence and or intimate partner stalking with impacts such as injury, fearfulness, good Lord, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Use of victim services, contraction of sexually STDs. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, while babbling through my notes, is that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men I love you, Dad. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men go through some type of domestic violence situation. So, literally just take that and think about all of the different relationships that you're in, your various social circles, your community, and think 1 in 4 of your friends or 1 in 9 of your men friends have experienced some type of domestic abuse. That is a lot of us. But there's not much talk about it. So we're going to talk about it. Because I'm tired of us acting like this mess does not exist. My sis says they overcome by the word of their testimony and the blood of the Lamb. That is exactly right. that is why I'm pushing through my snot and messing up my little piece of concealer and talking about it, because this is how we overcome. All right, so a further reading says 1 in 7 women and 1 in 25 men have actually been injured by their partner. 1 in 10 women have been raped by an intimate partner, and sadly, it's very hard to find data on how many men have been raped by their partners, but that exists, and I know men that have lived through that. But there's just such a stigma on getting help or reporting this that a lot of times it's very hard to find actual data about it. Okay, what did I say? 1 in 7 women and 1 in 18 men have been stalked by their partner in their lifetime, to the point in which they felt very fearful or believed that they or someone close to them would be harmed or killed. Oh, okay, I'm going to go back to that later. On a typical day, there are more than 20,000 phone calls placed to domestic violence services nationwide. The presence of a gun in a domestic violence situation increases the risk of homicide by 500%. I thought I read that wrong, because what? 500%. Let that sink in. Whew. Intimate partner violence accounts for 15% of all violent crime. Women between the ages of 18 or 24 are most commonly abused in an intimate relationship. 19% of domestic violence involves a weapon. Domestic victimization is correlated with a higher rate of depression and suicidal behavior. Only 34% of people who are injured by their partner receive medical care for their injuries. Okay, moving on. Stalking, which is a big reason why a lot of folks will ultimately go back to the relationship that they were in, is because of these tactics made to incite fear and helplessness. Stalking is one of those ways that can happen. I've experienced that. 19.3 million women and 5.1 million men in the U.S. have been stalked in their lifetime. 60.8 of female stalking victims and 43.5% of men victims report it. So as you know, these are just the ones that are reporting it, which means it happens probably at a higher level, higher percentages than we think. Okay, children and domestic violence. 1 in 15 children are exposed to domestic violence each year, and 90% of these children are eyewitnesses to this violence. 90%. 1 in 15. Okay, if you're like me, our communities are filled with kids, right? Imagine just having a classroom of 30 kids, right? 2 of those babies in that room have most likely witnessed their parent or, whatever, being a victim of domestic violence. That's maddening. Whew. Okay, so testimonials. I asked for any of you who felt comfortable sharing some of your stories to do so. And like what typically happens, a lot of folks started sending stuff into 10 and 15, 20 minutes before I jumped on the air. So I didn't have time to go through and edit and go through or even read. I just saw some of them coming in. But what I did, I picked a girlfriend of mine and a guy friend of mine, both whom I love dearly, and they shared their testimonies. And so I would like to read what they've shared, and then we'll go from there. And I thank you guys so much for being here again and for wading into this subject matter with me. All right, this first one comes from my female friend. She says, I used to think of abuse as physical, the bruises, black eyes, or even worse. I never recognized or realized that abuse could be emotional, and psychological in nature until one afternoon in 2011. After my ex-husband wanted a separation, I decided to pack up and take a job in another city to start over. I knew I was broken. I knew I was devastated. I knew that I was in a daze. It wasn't until I met with a therapist for the first time did I ever hear the word abuse. My whole body tensed up when she said it, and my stomach dropped out as if it were on a roller coaster. What? No way, that's not it. Wait, you really think so? I was a bit shocked that this word was spoken during my session. All I was trying to do was gain clarity and figure out how to move forward, not to leave the session as someone in an abusive relationship. To this day, I have a hard time using the word as it relates to my own story. There is usually a secondary thought of, he wasn't that bad, or he had a lot of issues. But that's part of it, isn't it? Always wanting to protect the abuser, always thinking about how my actions and words would affect him. There were plenty of physical moments in the relationship where his rage overtook him, punching cars, walls, hitting our cats, and pushing me to the ground. Whew, the rage boiled underneath the surface, and I was typically the cause. He would describe it as, I'm gonna snap, and that meant to shut up. In the beginning of the relationship, I would press in and not care that he was angry. In full transparency, I think I wanted him to hit me, so I had a reason to leave. Because in my mind, the only reason to get a divorce was if there was physical abuse or an affair. After time went by, though, there was a shift. I became numb. I literally created a dark hole inside my soul that I would crawl into and hide. The numbness affects me to this day. It's something I actively work against as I refuse to live as a captive any longer. Whew, that is so good. The emotional abuse can be much more subtle. In my case, my ex was funny and charismatic. So the narrative begins to take hold that I'm the cause of his anger and behavior. As I look back, there are early memories of where the emotional control reared its ugly head. Being upset that I didn't pay enough attention to him was a consistent theme. Whew, and always calling me selfish. Y'all, I'm saying ooh because sometimes it feels like I'm reading my own story. Early on, I started learning that love was conditional. I do XYZ and I get his love, but if I don't, I risk him snapping or seeking another female's attention. There was always the threat of other women. I believed I wasn't good enough for him. According to him, I had arms like a linebacker and a flat behind. Oh, but on a good day, I was beautiful and hot. I knew when he passed by a woman, whether or not she was his type. He had a type, and I wasn't it. To him, I wasn't a good wife either. On one hand, I was expected to cook and take care of the home, be a good wife, but I also needed to dress sexy, go out to the club, and party. I was not allowed to just be. I had to be everything all of the time and attend to his desires. I sometimes describe the relationship as a bubble and not knowing up from down, left from right. I couldn't trust my gut anymore because everything was filtered through his lens. I felt lost and dependent on this man's love for self-worth. Was that part of the plan? I think so. Break me down and then build me up. Break me down and build me up. As I write this, so many memories flood my mind of how he was a master at manipulation and a pro at gaslighting. Okay. So, I'm sorry, I'm trying to fast forward through a few of the things. One heartbreaking memory that speaks to the unhealthy attachment to him occurred while he attended school and I worked to support us. I had recently left a corporate career to start a new journey in skincare. I wasn't making enough money, and there was pressure from him to go back to what I knew in order to make more money. During one of our arguments, I ended up sitting at his feet, crying and looking at his face as he sat on the sofa. I don't remember the context of the conversation, but I'm sure it was about money. His words, however, are seared in my memory and cut like a knife. You are dead weight. I believed him. Okay. Whew, good Lord Jesus. Thank you, if you're watching, friend, for sharing that. You shared some more, but I'm gonna move on, but thank you. Thank you. Okay, testimonial 2 is from my guy friend. He says, my father was a physically abusive addict. My mother was a narcissistic neglector. Two very different kinds of abuse with two very different impacts. The physical abuse healed. So did my father and I's relationship. He got clean. And while he was still a very hard man, he apologized and more than made up for my childhood with the time he spent with his grandson. He was kind, gentle, and patient with his grandson, and it allowed a lot of healing in that aspect of my life. My father made me into the best father and husband I could ever be, not necessarily teaching me what to do, but certainly by teaching me what not to do. It is a value I have come to be grateful for. My mother, on the other hand, is still the same narcissistic and neglectful person that she's always been. She admits no wrong, she admits no faults, and she'll often completely deny things that happened in my childhood or altogether tell me the things never happened and that I made it up. To this day, the denial of this abuse drastically affects my life. For the longest time, I really did think I was crazy. I believed that the lack of physical affection or even participation was normal. I believed that having little to no oversight as a teenager was normal. Later in life, this all accumulated into a lack of self-worth, self-love, and a tendency to overextend myself and help others to the point of neglecting myself. It was a major point in my codependency as well. As a result, though, I have learned to set healthy boundaries, to put myself first, to not overextend. Some days it's an uphill battle. Some days I still struggle with self-worth and self-love, but I make an effort every day. My point in all of this is all abuse has lasting effects, but I believe that emotional and verbal trauma has a greater effect and a tendency to create deeper wounds in life. Okay, so yes, I want to say that it is very easy to dismiss some of the abuse that we've endured because it doesn't look like what we've seen on TV or the news or horrible stories that we've heard, right? I have had bones broken. I've got scars in my skin that I can look at right now that came from physical altercations, right? But to be perfectly honest, I'm looking at one right now, and oftentimes I have to struggle to see it because time has healed that physical wound to the point where it's not just blaring out at me all of the time, right? But the words and the emotional trauma and the mental brain screw, to be frank, that's the stuff that stays, right? Like it is never good. It is never okay to be bullied physically, to be pushed and shoved and kicked and all of that. And I have friends who have endured more physical violence from their partner than I can even wrap my brain around, and I've been through some stuff, okay? But I think all of my friends who have been through abuse all say that it's the emotional and verbal and mental trauma that is the hardest to overcome. It's also very sneaky because if you are not being shoved around, you might begin to feel like you're not being abused. You'll start to rationalize why you're getting this pushback, or, it's very easy to kind of sweep that under the rug if you aren't being physically attacked as well as these other things. But domestic violence and abuse does not just mean that you've been physically manhandled. So I want to say that. A lot of times it is a combo of the worst kind, but sometimes it's one or the other. So if you find yourself in one of these situations routinely, well, if you find yourself in these situations at all, it's something to explore and to give very serious thought to how you're living and how you deserve to be treated and what you want from yourself. Abuse is a very, very personal situation when you're dealing with marriages and all kinds of stuff. Everybody's breaking point is different. Everybody's background is different. Some of us came from backgrounds where divorce was just unthinkable, so we felt like we were forced to stay for various reasons. A lot of my friends who were in ministry that were in abusive relationships tend to have stayed longer because of the expectation of the church, or what they feel like they learned about what the Bible says or how Christ would view them. It is a lot to tackle, and there is no one who can tell you when it's time to go, particularly, specifically, but it's not something you have to stay in and deal with. You just don't. So let's talk about some more statistics. The mental and emotional impact of abuse. Studies suggest that there is a relationship between intimate partner violence and depression and suicidal behavior. Listen to me. I am pretty much a happy-go-lucky person, right? I can take a lot, and I've had to take a lot. I have very rarely, I've dealt with depression very darkly. I've dealt with depression. You hear me? But there was never a time that I felt suicidal, or just wanting not to live, as there was in my last relationship. That thing there is sneaky, sneaky, sneaky. And to be perfectly honest, it wasn't the physical violence that did it. It was the constant verbal and mental abuse that had me in a place feeling like I had nothing to give and I had no worth, and that I had brought a child into a world, a very toxic world. Okay, physical and mental and sexual reproductive health effects have been linked with domestic partner violence as well, including adolescent pregnancy, unintended pregnancy in general, miscarriage, stillbirth, intrauterine hemorrhage, nutritional deficiency, abdominal pain and other intestinal problems, neurological disorders, chronic pain, disability, anxiety, PTSD, as well as non-communicable diseases such as hypertension, cancer, cardiovascular disease. Victims of domestic violence are also at risk for developing addictions to alcohol, tobacco, or drugs. Very recently, I started seeing a chiropractor here in Nashville. And he's a remarkable man and a godly man, and it's been really, really great to be seen by him, because he has been able to help me realize that our bodies hold trauma. A lot of these pains and issues that I've carried for a long, long time are directly related to various abuses that I've received. Our bodies, our minds, we hold that. And so you could be walking around having the best time of your life with high blood pressure and with other stuff, not realizing that that's come from the trauma your body has endured. It is no joke. Okay, if you are being abused, remember this. You are not to blame for being battered or mistreated. You will be told that you are to blame. You probably have been told that more times than you can count. It's a lie. It is a lie. It is not your fault. You are not the cause of your partner's abusive behavior. You do deserve to be treated with respect. You do deserve a safe and happy life. Your children deserve a safe and happy life. You are not alone. There are people waiting to help. All right, so there may be some of you who are watching this or listening and are going like, okay, well, I deal with a little bit of that. I deal with this, but not that. Listen to a couple of these things. I'm sorry. I'm trying to make sure that I phrase things the way that I want to. I'm kind of seeking God as I talk because I just want to make sure that I address you all, and that that whoever needs to hear what I'm saying hears it. I'm going to read some things. I'm going to say some things. And while I do, if you find yourself in a relationship that hurts far more than it heals, I want you to consider if you are being abused. And let's go from there. Okay. If you are hoping your partner will change, the abuse will probably keep happening. Abusers have deep emotional and psychological problems. While change is not impossible, it isn't quick or easy. And change can only happen once your abuser takes full responsibility for his behavior, seeks professional treatment, and stops blaming you. Their unhappy childhood, stress, work, drinking, temper is not on you. Okay? If you believe that you can help your partner, it is only natural that you want to help. You may think that you're the only one who understands them or that it's your responsibility to fix the problems. But the truth is, and this gut punched me today, the truth is that by staying and accepting repeated abuse, you're reinforcing and enabling the behavior. Instead of helping your abuser, you're perpetuating the problem. Ugh. That's hard, because when you love someone, you want them well. And when you've been kind of brainwashed into thinking that their abusive behavior is your fault, you might feel like it's your duty to help them get well. Nah, it ain't. And honestly, by staying, you don't help them, because you continue to tell them that it's okay, that at the end they can do whatever they want to do to you, and you're going to stay or you're going to come back. It doesn't heal. Listen to me. It does not heal their issues. If your partner has promised to stop the abuse, when facing consequences, help me, Jesus. Whew. This is real, y'all. When facing consequences, abusers will often plead for another chance, beg for forgiveness, and promise to change. They may even mean what they say in the moment, but their true goal is to stay in control and keep you from leaving. Most of the time, and I mean most, they quickly return to their abusive behavior once you've forgiven them and they're no longer worried that you will leave. If you're worried about what will happen if you leave, excuse me, good grief, you may be afraid of what your partner will do, where you'll go, or how you'll support yourself or your children. Don't let fear of the unknown keep you in a dangerous, unhealthy situation. I promise you, it is frightening to leave. But it's so worth it. Don't stay. Don't stay in that. Okay. Signs that your abuser is not changing. He minimizes, I say he unilaterally, they minimize the abuse or denies how serious it really was. They continue to blame others for their behavior. They claim that you are the one who is abusive. Oof. They pressure you to go to couples counseling. Couples counseling is not bad. It's very necessary. But when I tell you there is nobody more willing to go to counseling in a moment than an abuser, whew. They tell you that you owe them another chance, that you have to push them to stay in treatment. They say that they can't change unless you stay and support them. They try to get sympathy from you, your children, your family, and friends. They expect something from you in exchange for getting help. Or they pressure you to make decisions about the relationship. Listen to me. Oh, guys, this is so gross. I'm so sorry. I knew that this was going to be an emotional topic just because I did not expect to be up here whining and crying and snotting and stuff. But I trust that the Holy Ghost and that God was aware of all that I was going to bring to this conversation. And so as tempting as it is to be a little bit embarrassed, my shirt says, sorry, not sorry. We got to talk about this mess. We got to look it in the face, and we got to get free and stay free. And when I tell you every single bit of this, every single bit of what I've read to you applies to me and my various unhealthy relationships, whew, let me tell you, everybody's breaking point is different, right? Everyone has that one relationship or that one person that we seem to grant carte blanche to, right? If someone else did 1/95th of the things that they've done to you, you would have walked and never ever gone back a long time ago. But somehow this person has crawled into your mind, crawled into your heart, crawled into your psyche, and there's a bit of a codependency, a bit of fear, all kinds of things making you feel like you are somehow deserving of the trash you're getting, or that leaving would make things even worse, or that it's your fault in the first place. You should have known better. Listen, that was an issue for me. I stayed in a few relationships longer than I needed to because I thought, well, this is your darn fault in the first place. Had you not booed up with this fool, you wouldn't be here. Lies. Lies. You are not to blame, or you are not responsible for the actions and mishandling of an abuser. It will never be your fault. It will never be your fault. I thank God for my child because she gave me the strength to leave my last and final abusive situation. I dealt with far more than I should have my entire pregnancy. My entire pregnancy. I wanted it to work. I didn't get into my marriage to leave. And after living the beautiful but difficult at times life that I had lived up to that point, I could not believe that my happily ever after was turning into this, that it looked like that. But it did. And it didn't change. No matter how many times I left, how many times I came back, how many times I got the pastor involved, how many times I counseling, how many books, nothing. Promises, threats of other women, nothing fixed it, nothing made it work. I tried to tell myself, because I was in it, the whole time, and I could not believe that this is what my little life looked like with my first baby. I tried to tell myself, now listen, it's well and good if he's doing this to you, but if he touches that, if he crosses the line when that baby is born, you gotta go. And so, when the final straw happened, when the straw that broke the camel's back finally occurred, and my baby was a wee babe in arms, still nursing, and I was physically attacked, there was a godly rage that came over me in that moment. And I'll be perfectly honest, I left, honestly, to be real talk, I got out of the room, I ran to a safe place, I barricaded the doors, and I got me and the baby safe. And then that morning, the next morning, it happened in the wee hours of the morning, I went and I led worship at church. And then I told my pastor, I'm gone. I don't know what's happening. I don't know when I'm going to be back. I don't know this, that, and the other. But I made a plan. I grabbed what I could run. My dad said it's called motherhood. I grabbed what I could grab, and I flew to Houston. And I stayed with my parents for months, 2 months, a month. Then I moved to Nashville, began building dual residency. I sought legal help, but I wasn't always sure in any stage that I was gone for real. But I would look at my daughter, my baby, and I would say, she don't deserve this. My own stupidity, my actions, my lack of discernment, whatever it was that I was feeling about why I might have deserved what I was getting at that time, completely dismissed when I saw my baby. And I said, there is no way in hell that I am raising my child in this. And that's what did it for me. And I'm grateful to God for that. Because honestly, I don't know how much longer I would have stayed. And when I think about this pandemic and the quarantine, shutdown, and all of that stuff, I have legitimately wept at the thought of what my life would have been like, what our life would have been like had I not left. And I think of the stories of yours that I don't know, and my friends who are dealing with pain that I don't know, that I'm not aware about. Aware of, who have been forced to stay or feel like they have no choice because the answers are unclear. Everybody's breaking point is different, but everyone is deserving of safety, respect, and godly love. And if you find yourself in a place where you're not getting that, if you find yourself where you are being told constantly that you are worthless, or that your behavior has triggered them to binge alcohol, drugs, whatever, women, men, whatever, that is abusive. If you have to run and hide and try to keep your children safe from the presence of an attacker, that's abuse. Your family and your children deserve more. And I pray that when you can, you will reach out to, if you have no one else, me. And I will try to find anybody in the city that you are in to get you some help, because it is that important. The folks who don't leave often wind up dead. Just trying to make it. Trying to hold on. Excuse me, y'all. Yasmin Rose, why is the water running? Get out of the bathroom. Okay, I'm rambling, and I've cried, and I've said more and probably a little bit less than I thought that I would say. I don't even know what time it is, and I assume that we're over. We are over by 15 minutes. I just want you to know that no one has the right to make you feel less than in your relationship. No one has the right to make you feel unsafe. No one has the right to make you afraid. And you don't have to live that way. And if you are ready to leave, reach out. Reach out to me, reach out to pastors, reach out to friends. Part of the hardest part of leaving was a little bit of the shame, because I had to let folks know that I wasn't as strong as they thought I was. Imagine my shock when none of them were shocked. When none of them were expecting me to be Superwoman in the first place. People love you. You are fiercely loved, even if you don't see it in your household or in your relationship. You are valued, and you deserve more. So don't stay. Don't feel like you have to. I had no money and a baby. I had no idea what my life was going to look like. And to be perfectly honest, I still don't. I'm still walking through it. I'm still healing, but I'm free. And my baby does not know. And she won't know what that mess feels like. Not on my watch. It's worth it. It is worth it. You are worth it. Okay? So, I love you so much. If you need my help, if you need help, reach out. Please hit me up in my DMs. In my inbox. DM sounds a little scandalous. Slide into my DMs. We'll get you some help. We'll get you support. We sure will. We absolutely will. Okay? I love you. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. This is a hard road we're walking, and we're walking it together, right? So I love you all. Thank you so much for talking with me and listening to me and providing me, what do you call it? Digital hankies for my snot and my tears. You guys are amazing. God bless you. That's what's going down. Bye.